So let's begin by talking about some pictures, talking about what's really on the table when you're talking of two important world leaders, Prime Minister Modi and Vladimir Putin. We've seen the camaraderie between both the two world leaders just about yesterday. That was on full display with that big hug that you have also seen on your screens. All these, remember, images again are sending a message, not just when it comes to New Delhi, also to Kremlin, but also to the world over. We've seen that warm handshake followed by a beer hug, then chat over dinner. The two leaders have shared smiles. They've also held informal talks. President Putin addressed the Prime Minister as quote-unquote param dost, or a best friend, as the two took their seats for a private dinner.
आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी, परम दोस्त, आपका स्वागत है, हार्दिक स्वागत है। आपको देखने से मुझे बड़ी खुशी है।
Официальные разговоры у нас состоятся завтра.
औपचारिक बातचीत कल होने वाली है।
А сегодня мы можем в такой домашней обстановке спокойно поговорить, наверное, о тех же вопросах, но неофициально.
और आज अनौपचारिक रूप से हम घर के वातावरण में हम उसी मामलों पर बात कर सकते हैं।
And also President Putin and Prime Minister Modi were seen walking in the President's house after the dinner. Later, the Prime Minister also enjoyed an e-cart ride with Putin by his side. And clearly, these are very, very powerful images just by the look of it. Remember, after an informal engagement, the two leaders will also get down to business today. There's going to be that all-important bilateral that takes place. There is going to be a power pack schedule for Prime Minister Modi, and apart from the diaspora event that is scheduled to take place shortly, the Prime Minister is also participating in restricted talks as well as delegation level talks today. And in what further signals cementing of ties between the two world leaders, Prime Minister Modi would be honored with Russia's highest civilian decoration. Do remember, this was announced in 2019 when Prime Minister last traveled to Russia. Major economic announcements are also expected during the summit-level talks later today. And sources telling Times Now that the Prime Minister will also be meeting the Russian President for at least 8 to 9 hours before he leaves the country later tonight.
The Prime Minister has a packed schedule. He'll be attending the 22nd Annual Summit. He will have restricted and delegation-level talks. And he will meet the Indian community, he will address the Indian community members and also visit Rosatom and exhibition space.
The agenda of Prime Minister Narendra Modi of second day is on first the list is to have dialogues with Indian diaspora. There will be around something around about 300 to 400 people. I think by 11 o'clock he will be heading towards Kremlin to have a bilateral discussion with President Vladimir Putin. And I think the main agenda of this discussion will be, number one, the defense cooperation. Number two will be this export, to increase the export of Indian goods in Russian market. There are a lot of export deficit between India and Russia as of now, because India is buying a lot of Russian oil and able to export from India to Russia a very little goods. I think the APEDA is going to have a big role here, because agriculture we are seeing as a big part to play in this game to increase the export from India to Russia. And I think APEDA UP and APEDA India is going to have a direct delegation towards Moscow somewhere in September 7th or 8th, when the Moscow World Food is going to have here in Moscow.
Let's also get you this quick breaking update. Top sources already telling Times Now that Russia has decided to discharge and facilitate the return of all Indians working in the Russian army after the Prime Minister took up the entire matter with President Putin. Do remember, this has been a point in conversation for some time around, and there were results expected exactly during this visit, something that we are learning, that there is an assurance that has come in, and we will have Srinjoy joining us in just a moment to get you ahead details of that. Srinjoy, good morning. We see you on our screens now. Tell me something. Is there a formal announcement expected shortly? And why is this so important, Srinjoy, keeping in mind the kind of, politics, comments we've heard from every opposition neta back home here?
Well, first of all these Indians who joined the Russian army were conned into doing this. They were told that, yes, they would be joining the army, but they would not be sent to the front. They would have other work in the rear areas for logistics and so on. But they were sent to the front, and once they were at the front, there have been casualties. Now, what India has said is that these people who have been conned into joining the Russian army and then sent to the front should be sent back to India. This is something that the Russian government has agreed, and all these Indians who were wrongly sent to the front will all be returned to India. They will all be coming back to India. So that's really a positive development. It's the first of the many announcements that you're going to see in the near future. There will be announcements on space, on defense, on other technologies, special technologies. As far as trade is concerned, you will hear a lot about a free trade agreement, about this corridor between Vladivostok in Russia and Chennai here. You will be hearing a lot of the 3 Fs, food, fuel, and fertilizer. Most importantly, you'll be hearing a lot about space. The Gaganayan mission, the joint working of Russian and Indian space agencies for Gaganayan, for the manned mission, for training, for the building of engines, and all of these things will be on the agenda. From what we are hearing is that because this is happening after 3 years, there is a lot to say and a lot to do.
Absolutely. And, Srinjoy, we also have a lot to speak about. So I'm just requesting you to stay with us as we'll talk about this agenda that you've just spoken about. And let's bring up those details also on our screens for our viewers. Now, look at the core issues we are talking about. This is defense, energy, trade. That continues to be high on agenda, as you will have the 2 leaders sitting across today discussing all these issues threadbare. Sources also telling Times Now that India is ready with the stand that it will take on the Ukraine-Russia conflict. Again and again, India has made it very, very clear that you cannot have a solution that can be found in the battlefield. Prime Minister Modi time and again has said that there is only one solution by conversation, by sitting together, and that's only how you can achieve peace. But what is it that one can expect the agenda could be as the 2 nations hold these key talks? Let's quickly listen in to another quick report coming in from our colleague Abhishek. Then we'll also get in Srinjoy to push this point ahead.
This visit of Prime Minister Modi has a very high significance here in Russia, because entire Russian government was waiting for him almost for a couple of years, almost like 2019 when he was here. It's almost 5 years gone. So it be defense, so it be the oil trade or some other trade stuff and all. This visit is very high significance. Why? Because of all entire pressure put by Western countries on India not to have a bilateral ties, not to have a relationship with Russia. India decided and firmly decided that it has to go with its own and very old friend, Russia.
All right, so let me get this opportunity again to get in our colleague Srinjoy. Srinjoy, many people are saying it's not just about how New Delhi and Kremlin are looking at this relationship. There is a larger message, because you will have Beijing looking keenly at what happens from here on, the takeaways, and so will the US. Remember, there is already that NATO summit that also gets underway. So clearly, how is the world going to be responding to what's going on? How is that very critical? And a lot of conversation also about that rupee-ruble thing. Will that be settled? Will we see some kind of a solution coming in?
Well, that's a lot of questions, Deepthi. I'll let me see how I can deal with them. First of all, as far as the world is concerned, Prime Minister Modi did not go to the SCO. Prime Minister Modi, by not going to the SCO, made it very clear that there was no need really to have any kind of bilateral, any kind of meeting, any kind of handshake with the Chinese. So that was set aside. If you have to meet the Russians, there is a bilateral coming up, and Prime Minister Modi decided that he would meet President Putin in Moscow. And that's exactly what he is doing right now. That's really the first thing. As far as the Americans are concerned, well, it's a very clear point. India is very good friends with the Russians. India has very close relations with America. America is a partner. Let's not forget that Jake Sullivan, the U.S. National Security Advisor, was here just a few days ago. He had long meetings with Ajit Doval, the National Security Advisor. He also called on the Prime Minister. Now, as far as the bilateral relation is concerned, it really rests on three major legs. 1, defense. 2, space. 3, civil nuclear energy. Now, as far as defense is concerned, 60-65% of India's weaponry, whether it's tanks, whether it's armored personnel carriers, whether it's warships, whether it's submarines, whether it's Sukhoi fighters, they're all Russian. And a big problem is the lack of spares. Now, one issue that is going to be looked at this time is spares and maintenance. Now, that has to be done. Yes, the Russians have a problem now. The Russians have a problem because they've been fighting a war for 2 years. Now, India has spares, but India should not be running out of them. And that's the issue that will be taken up, and let's hope this gets sorted out. There are other issues as well, like the S-400 air defense system. There have been delays in getting the last 2 of them. So that's really defense. Apart from that, space is going to be an area where there will be major breakthroughs.
Yes.
Because India has that Gaganayan mission coming up. The Russians have been helping with the training. The Russians have been working with India as far as the ISRO engines are concerned.
Okay.
So that's a second big issue. You spoke about trade, and very rightly too. Because as far as trade is concerned, India and Russia now need to ensure that India's exports go up.
Yes.
India has been buying a lot of Russian oil, and that is helping India because India is buying it cheaply. Now, even the Americans have no problem with it because America has said that if Russian oil, crude oil is refined in India and exported to America, it is being seen as Indian oil. So therefore, America has no problem. India continues to buy Russian oil, but the trade deficit is very high. If the trade deficit is very high...
Apologies, I'm just cutting you short here, but there's a lot more that we want to bring to our viewers, and through this day, Srinjoy will continue to be in conversation, decoding a lot more data, a lot more information that we need to know. But look at the visit of the Prime Minister that is already creating ripples here. Now, ripples because there is a lot of politics, the opposition clearly pointing fingers at the Prime Minister and the visit. Now, Congress has been seeking to remind everyone that it's not just under the BJP's regime that you've seen a good relationship. They in fact say that look at the number of times Manmohan Singh had met with the Russian president. He says, in fact, Jairam Ramesh did take to social media earlier, and he said that all has not been well when it comes to right now the relationship between New Delhi and Kremlin. The Samajwadi Party also, on the other hand, is questioning the outcome of these foreign trips by the Prime Minister.
देखिए, मनमोहन सिंह जी और पुतिन और जो वहां के प्रधानमंत्री हैं दिमित्री मेडवेडेव, उनके बीच में तो उनके 10 साल के कार्यकाल में 16 बार उन दोनों के बीच में मुलाकात हुई, और पुतिन और नॉन बायोलॉजिकल प्रधानमंत्री के बीच में 10 साल में सिर्फ 11 बार मुलाकात हुई है। क्या कुछ वातावरण ठंडा हुआ है पुतिन और मोदी के बीच में?
प्रधानमंत्री जी लगातार विदेश के दौरे करते रहे हैं, तमाम मुल्कों में गए हैं, लेकिन उससे हमारे देश की जो अर्थनीति है, जो हमारे देश की विदेश नीति है, उसको क्या लाभ मिला, ये सबसे महत्वपूर्ण सवाल है। मुझे लगता है इस सवाल का जवाब देश के प्रधानमंत्री जी और भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार को देना चाहिए।
And the BJP is also hit back. The BJP says, forget your politics, this is about the country and about a continuity in the foreign policy.
जो रिश्ते अच्छे हैं वो कांग्रेस की वजह से हैं, जो खराब हैं वो किसी और की वजह से हैं। इस करके जो प्राइम मिनिस्टर साहब हैं, आज 10 साल तो उनको हो गए, और तीसरी जो गवर्नमेंट बनी है मोदी साहब की, जो कुछ उन्होंने किया है, ये क्योंकि आज एक नया युग है, नया युग में जो कुछ किया है वो प्राइम मिनिस्टर साहब ने और प्राइम मिनिस्टर साहब की सरकार ने किया है। इससे क्रेडिट लेने की कोशिश है जो कांग्रेस ना करे। कांग्रेस की अब कोई भी ऐसी बातें ना लोग सुनना चाहते हैं, ना उनको करनी चाहिए।
देखो, our relationship
international relationship are not confined to, is not a personality-based thing. It is a strategic decision taken by two sovereign states in the best interest of both the states. Foreign policy is above and beyond any petty politics. They should not drag foreign policy into these kind of a thing. Who has done what? It has been nurtured over the years, and Russia has stood by us in very dire times. Our diplomatic relationship should not be held mortgage to their petty political thinking.
All right, so the BJP there again underscoring that this is about a country's foreign policy. Why to politicize this? I do have my colleague Sabyasachi who's been standing by to get us more insight into the politics of this. But before we do that, let me also say good morning to the former diplomat Anil Trigunia-ji, who's been again very patiently holding the phone line, sir. Good morning and thank you for speaking to us. How do you read into what you have seen, whether these are images, whether these are noises that have come in from all sides, and the Prime Minister's own personal chemistry that possibly many say is able to deliver a lot of things that otherwise remain stalled?
Well, there is no doubt that today the diplomacy is conducted at the highest level. And Prime Minister Modi and President Putin have a tremendous chemistry. I have witnessed it myself. At the same time, let us also not discount the fact that India-Russia and India-Soviet relationship had stood firm throughout 70, 80 years from now. So we have seen it happening, and this time the relationship is at the highest pedestal, I would say, because it's a special privileged strategic partnership. It's across the spectrum. We work together in everything, and especially the current ongoing geopolitical churn, the relationship has acquired a greater significance, especially as India continues in its strategic autonomy, as well as multi-alignments, wherever India's own interests are served. So therefore, I would say that this is a relationship which is said trusted strategic partnership, and that is something very important.
All right, so and we look forward to talking to you through the day, as we'll also be standing by to get more details. So what happens vis-a-vis the bilaterals? Could there be some significant announcements and much more? And let me also get in our colleague Sabyasachi to actually speak more about the kind of politics here. Because Sabyasachi, these are, relevant questions, I think, that have been raised by both sides. When the government says that, the Prime Minister is going there because he's representing the country, he's speaking as one, as the country, not as someone from the BJP or any other party. But then the opposition says that, we are citing the number of times even our leaders had visited Russia, done those deals. But the thing is that when it comes to foreign policy, there has to be continuity no matter what.
Well, absolutely. See, from the Congress side, three major questions has been asked from the central government. The number one question that they have asked is regarding the Indian nationals who have been fighting in the Russia-Ukraine war. What about their safe return? And the second question that they have asked is regarding the trade imbalance that has been increased lately. How the imports from Russia has been increased and the exports from India to Russia has decreased in recent times. And also they have said that how former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh have met a Russian president around 16 times, which is comparatively less to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now the Congress party is trying to downplay Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Russia. On one hand, the Congress party is saying that the trade imbalance that could be seen between India and Russia should be properly treated. That is the reason why Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Russia today. That is the reason why he is meeting Russian President Vladimir Putin. Now, the BJP says that the foreign policy should be left out from politics, and the Congress party is trying to take credit for everything. And at this particular time, the Congress need to avoid playing politics on foreign policy. See, the war of words is going on, whereas the Congress are clearly attacking the BJP, stating that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has time to visit Russia, has time to visit other countries, but also comparing it with Rahul Gandhi's visit to Manipur.
All right. We leave it there right now, Sabyasachi, but I'm sure that this is not the end of all the politics. But yes, on the other side of this very quick break, we'll again put our focus on what really is expected. And like I said, you have that all-important address to the diaspora by the Prime Minister shortly. We on the other side are back with that and much more.